Role-playing in my MMORPG? I just thought it was a funny tagline to start with. So, role-playing in general is a lot of fun. I really have an immense amount of joy and some really good memories with friends playing tabletop role-playing games. However, transposing that into MMORPG role-playing is totally different. I've hardly ever done it. I've only recently started doing it, probably in the last year to two, when not only because of COVID, but just life in general, role-playing in person has become harder and harder to do. Yes, I know there are things to do it online, between using Discord and Roll20. I've done those, and they're a lot of fun. However, you lose a little bit of the in-person flair. Actually, I think you lose a lot of bit of the in-person flair. And I found that role-playing in MMORPGs is like a better version of digital role-playing for me. Maybe not for you, but for me, it's a lot better than the Roll20s or the, I don't know, tabletop simulators or however you like to do it. It's just a lot more interactive and a lot more fun for me doing it through an MMORPG. And Ashes of Creation, I believe, is going to have so many systems in place that are for role playing and then are just for the quality of the game and how high quality they want to make the world in the game that will incidentally impact and improve role playing in the world of Era. And I know some of you think role playing may be dumb in a video game, which is fine. Totally your way to interact with games, your speed, however you like to. You know, I have a lot of friends that I would quote unquote call power gamers, I guess, or people who are just very into games competitively. Like, they want to be the best at whatever they do. They want to be at the top of a leaderboard, or they want to have clout in the internet space, or, you know, and they jump from competitive game to competitive game, from new game to new game, and just want to be the best PvPers, or they want to be at the top of the PvE content because they want their name out there, they want the bragging rights. I have a lot of friends like that. I'm part of a couple Discords like that. And like I said, that's their brand. That's the flavor they like. Not mine. Just isn't. And the reason why I think role-playing is so much fun and why I think you should consider it or just entertain it is for a lot of reasons. I think role-playing players, I think, get bought into a brand a lot more. And by that, I mean, if a patch comes out and now this build got nerfed or buffed or whatever, the competitive scene goes wild, right? Oh, the meta shifted. I just put all this time in on this class, and now it's not as good as it was. Now I'm going to have to roll a new class and max all this stuff because it's way better at doing what I want to do. And, you know, and they get really into it. And role players don't give a shit, you know? Not really. You know, if I wanted to play a character I created and they were a ranger primary, cleric secondary, because I like the idea of like a divine short bow using character, and now they're not great, or maybe they're worse, or maybe they're better, or what have you, I'm still going to play the character because I built the character. You know, I've role-played as the character. I have backstory. I have all of this, which I know backstory doesn't really influence an MMORPG. I get it. I do. But for this brand of playing and this much fun, you know, I wouldn't matter. Nerfs and buffs, I would still play the character that I love to play. I'm sure there would be situations where it would affect potentially what a role-playing player was playing. I don't know what that situation would be, but I could see it, right? I could see it affecting their choice of professions, things like that. But nerfs and buffs don't really impact as much, at least in my opinion again. As well as, you know, I'm going to keep playing the game. Even if like another cool game comes out, if I'm having fun role-playing with a group of people and they're role-playing and we're just playing the game and having fun, bullshitting, hanging out, and then role-playing cool situations, or maybe we don't necessarily role-play like you would in a Dungeons & Dragons game, but we just like role-play when we create our characters and like we go and just hang out and talk and then chill, but like we're making choices based on like, hey, you know what would be cool? Like, I'm a cleric, you know, I'm a soul bow for this example. I'm going to go do the church line or the religion line of quest. They don't really give you a lot, but I think it'd be really cool to get like a rise up in the ranks of the church. And then you're like, somebody else goes, oh, cool, man, I'm playing a, I don't know, here's cleric. I'm playing a protector or a shadow disciple. I'll do them with you, you know, and you're not worried about the outcome necessarily. You're just worried about having fun and developing your character the way you want to develop them. And then if a new game comes out, it doesn't pull you away from that because you're having fun. You're bought into the brand more because you're spending more time. You know, a nerf or a buff or a change to something, or I don't know, potentially something in a system gets changed a little bit to make it better for the masses. Like, you don't really care that much. I mean, you definitely care about the main core systems, but you don't care when things happen like that. It's harder for you to jump ship and go to the next hot thing. You know, that's one thing that streamers, one of the bad things streamers do is streamers go where the viewers are going to be. Some of them focus on what they like, but a lot of them go on the new hot thing because that's how they keep their view count up, because that's how they make their money. So a streamer comes in, brings all these people. Well, then a streamer gets upset about something or a system or decides they're bored and they jump ship. And then their opinion filtered through all of their followers. Let's say they're a big one, a couple 50,000, 100,000 followers or 40,000 daily viewers on their Twitch stream, you know, and they find a bad thing, they don't like it, they ditch. Well, these loyal followers oftentimes ditch with them and then just permeates the video game society, the MMO society, with the same view, and then trolls get a hold of it, the more toxic viewers get a hold of it, and spiral it more out of control, and then the game gets in the negative light, and then it just goes crazy because that's what people do. That's what we do on the internet, right? So, role-playing in the MMO, for me, has been because it's just a lot more interactive and a lot more fun. I think that specifically role-playing in Ashes of Creation is going to be a lot of fun. Between the caravans and the merchant ships and the dynamic weather, which if you haven't watched that dev update with the weather from this month, it's fucking awesome. You should check it out. It's amazing. But from the caravans and the caravans and the boats and the weather to the various spawning of animals, to the taming, to the professions and the artisan professions and the 64 archetypes and the world being dynamic. Like, it is a living, breathing world that they are trying to create, that they are currently looks like they are creating, and it'll be so much fun to not only exist in the land of Vera, but to roleplay in it. It would be a lot of fun. And I think that it would be able to replace very closely, maybe not 100%, that role-playing in-person deal, you know. And then I think supporting role players from a game development standpoint creates a more, I guess I would say, die-hard fan base, an immovable pool of players because they get so bought into the game, not necessarily financially, but perhaps, you know, they're a lot more likely to buy cosmetics, I believe. They're a lot more likely to try out some of your more in-depth systems and quest and interact with your lore more, when the rewards maybe are just titles or they don't affect stats or gear as much. You know, if you have writers and character developers that worked really hard on a couple lines of quest because it's just in depth and it really integrates yourself, the player, with the world, it really just brings the world to life, but it doesn't give great benefits at the end, you know. It doesn't give you the best armor or the next best shield or the weapon, or it doesn't give you a title, or it doesn't give you some kind of buff, or it doesn't unlock the next part of the raid, or whatever it is. A majority of people aren't going to do it, but the role players are going to go through it, and they're going to enjoy every last drop of flavor that you put into it. So I think supporting role players from a game development is intelligent. And while it feels like Intrepid Studios is doing that, you know, I don't think it's their primary. I just think that the world they're creating is just so hospitable to role players. All their systems, all their technology is just going to make it fun for everybody, hoping, obviously, that it comes out and they continue to just exceed expectations on every front. The game will be fun for everybody. However, for role players, it'll be a little easier to enjoy it, a living, breathing world where their systems incidentally, like by collateral damage, just improve the role-playing experience. Like the tavern situation is going to be awesome. I even heard talks that you might be able to use your microphone in the tavern. You know, so it's more like a tavern. You can hear people talking in the distance and things like that. I don't know if that's true, but if it is, even better. You know, just the absolute enormity of the character creator. The different races, the Tolnar being hyper customizable. You know, you're going to be able to create these awesome and amazing characters just in the character creator. And then the lore already has been really nice. I'm excited to see what more lore comes out. I would love to be able to talk with the people who designed the story or designed the NPCs. I would love to see like their thoughts and their thoughts on the story so far, where they plan on going with it. Obviously, no spoilers. How they create NPCs, because I find that another thing that enhances role-playing is the world, the lore, the NPCs. You know, if you just show me an NPC and he gives me a quest to go look for a thing, like, okay, all right, cool. But if you give me an NPC I see in multiple places throughout the world, or I see their cousins or their wives or their brothers or their family, or they work for a company and I see people from that company all over the world, and their stories start to line up and the quest lines start to compound and line up, and before you know it, I'm like, wow, the wood company I find all over, and it's pretty awesome when you start digging into the story of how they started, and it just creates more levels to the story and the lore and the NPCs, and I wonder how they're gonna create these NPCs to create that depth, only because they are letting the players drive so much of the world, from the development of nodes and how they affect the environment to the entire, almost 90% of the 95% of the economy is going to be player driven. You're going to affect the world. The player base will, more so I think than other MMOs. The world is the main player in this game, and you are affecting its decisions and the way it develops. I don't know if that takes away from the importance of NPCs, or it makes them more important. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments down below, but it just makes your character creation that much more. I made a little video, I'll link it in the description, about the impact of character choices and just the character creator on how it affects, your basic where you start, but it affects the aesthetics of your armor, sometimes the effects of your abilities, how you interact with the world on a whole. So the fact that just the character creation can have impact, imagine then taking that character and picking your profession and your artisan profession and really leaning into it, really leaning into the lore, picking a node in a more, maybe you and a group of people really pick a node in an aesthetic, like if you're one of the goblinoid races or the orc races, the Rinkai and the Vek, and you go into like their part of the world and you really lean into one of their cities and you make one of the metropolises there. That affects the whole server, right? That affects everything. Now imagine if your same RP group or guilds or association, whatever you want to call it, you all are like, you know what I'm really enjoying? The elves. So you guys like dig into it, or the Tolnar, and you dig into their area, one of their nodes, and you bring that node to a metropolis. That affects the entire world. And while people will do that just from a power gaming, what's the best for progressing our raid on the server or progressing our whatever on the server, that'll happen for sure. That'll be a majority of it. But imagine having a group of role players that is like, developing a node, and they live on the node, and the node is, developing at this ridiculous rate, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, well, I gotta go to that node. It's like level, it's not, maybe you get it to Metropolis, which will take forever, but they're like, they got that to a Metropolis over on this island or over in this desolate area because that's where they are, and, all of a sudden your non-role players come in, and it's this vibrant metropolis full of role players just having a fucking blast, and all of a sudden non-role players are like, why is this so much more fun in this neighborhood? Like, why is this city so much more cool? And maybe it is, on a serious note, the escapism that role-playing gives you. Life can't always be great. I try to enjoy it every day. I have great reasons to enjoy it. I love my wife, I love my children, they bring me joy every day. But there's external factors that affect your day. They affect your life. Sometimes you can't control inflation or wars or global events that just bring the mood down, that just absolutely destroy your faith in humanity and the world. And the escapism of role-playing in a game is kind of your drug of choice, and paper role-playing sometimes can't do it. I meet up with friends and we play and we role play, but we can't do it because of life. It's hard to leave the house. But if I can jump on and role play and be part of a living and breathing world, like Ashes of Creation, the world of Vera, after the wife's asleep, the kids are asleep, and I can jump on for 3 or 4 hours, or everybody's doing something. Maybe the wife went to work, she's in the office for the day, the kids are at school for the day, and maybe I have a day where I don't have as much to do, and I can jump on for a couple hours. That's awesome. That's that escapism drug. That's that it feels like I'm hanging out with friends situation, and I get to do it at my leisure, opposed to trying to coordinate an impossible feat of multiple adults with children and spouses trying to find time when they can put that, leaving the house, being gone for hours and coming back, like just that is impossible. It's like a fucking heist movie trying to figure that shit out, right? But doing it from my house is a big, huge thing. You know, I think that escapism drug really plays into why I think it's going to be so much fun. You know, I've tried role playing more in other games. WoW has RP servers, but they're pretty dead now. You know, some of the other games, I think Final Fantasy XIV had a pretty cool role playing crowd. I'm not gonna lie, those get a little intense. You know, and I don't know if I'll find myself being a hardcore role player where I just like, you know, where I'm just, hello, I am blah blah blah. Welcome to me. We are going to venture yonder unto the grasslands and the riverlands of the far world, and we will. You know, I don't know if I'm going to be doing a voice or, you know, like I would in a D&D session. But just like playing through a game in the mindset of role playing the character I created, I think is going to be a big drug boost. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It's going to be a big boost. And being able to do it at my leisure is going to be amazing. You know, I think it's really going to affect all of my decisions. I think it's going to be fun. I mean, look, I don't know if you're new to the channel or you're just watching this because it popped up or you've already clicked off it because you don't really like these real talk videos. But these are all I've created so far. And I'm only going to make more. And while I may not make these exact characters, they are like inspirations. They're all little inspirations when I make a character. And I know it seems silly, again, coming full circle, it seems silly to roleplay in an MMORPG. However, I feel like the world being created by Intrepid Studios will make this so much more fun. And I think that doing it just adds to the enjoyment for me. I think it adds to the escapism feel. You know, the big word for a lot of roleplay fanatics, a lot of people who play video games to enjoy the world and the story and the lore is immersion. You know, immersion's a hard thing to balance because while you want immersion on the forefront as a game, you know, in the modern era now, like right now, immersion's not as important to people as being the best at what they do. They want the class they picked or the archetype they picked to be strong. They want to be, they want to raid with the best of them. They want to PvP with the best of them. They want to brag that their server is ahead of theirs. You know, hunting rare spawns, you know, that's a huge fanatical thing in WoW is hunting the rare mounts. People may not even play WoW anymore, but they pay their subscription every month to log on every day and farm the same mounts on 20 different characters in an attempt to get a really rare mount. It's things like that, you know, and the spawn tables and everything are in spreadsheets and GPS locations for the world and all these things so that people can just do that. They want the clout. They want the collection. They want all these cool things, and that's how they interact with the game. But I believe that being I don't know if power gamer feels almost like a racial slur in the game world, but being that kind of player where you want to be the best, you want all the rarest things. Maybe you're a collector. Maybe you just want to be the best at PvP, or you want to be the head of a town or a metropolis, or you want to be the first server to do this, or you want to be so good that you get on streams with streamers you like, or you get to play with streamers you like, and you want to raid with. Those are going to be the majority, and you have to keep those guys in mind, and they're going to affect the game. If they find some cool secret thing, and you think it adds a really cool flavor, there are 300,000, 500,000, 750,000 people that watch that YouTube video they post are going to all know about the secret thing too. And while I understand, and I don't think it's necessarily right to hoard information or anything, especially when it comes to possibly making somebody else's enjoyment of the game higher, it's going to take away from some of the cool secret things that I enjoy about role-playing and such, you know, and world building. So they're going to affect it. But I still think it's not going to affect it. I don't know. Just pick a different server, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I'm going to play these characters, or all of these characters, I can't really decide, in these games. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I know I got on a sidetrack of the streamer deal, but I just think role-playing in this game is really going to be next level. And I think it's going to really help a lot of people who need like an outlet. And I don't mean that necessarily from a mental health standpoint, which it could totally be. I mean it more from a standpoint of they haven't been able to role-play, which is one of their favorite things to do. They haven't been able to get up with their friends because they all have lives. Then maybe it's distance. geographical reasons. Maybe it's just life reasons. However, they'll be able to log into this game and meet up with their friends. And I think the world is going to be so living and breathing that they're going to be able to role play, have a lot of fun. It's going to feel more immersive than those other programs we talked about where you can role play online or a post-by-post role play, which I've been trying to do. I'm terrible at it. Nobody really wants to do it on the forum, so I get it. But I think it's going to be a big deal. And I'm excited for it. And it just kind of came to me as like, well, while I was getting out of the shower, maybe you should record a video of you just kind of ranting or rambling about why you like to role play and why you're role playing in this game, and maybe why you're so intent on this specific title being the game in which you really lean into from a role playing perspective. And I think I've stated a lot of the reasons. I've talked about how I think that this would be a great environment for it. Talk about why I want to role play just because of the game itself, because of life. But I thought it would be a great video to make to let other people know that a couple things. One, role playing may seem dumb. You may think it's stupid. You may think it's pretty neckbeard, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to sit here and do voices and dress up. I usually don't. I'll do a voice when I play D&D because I think it's fun, but I probably won't in MMO because I'll be in Discord with friends and everything. But try it. Even if it's as far as boom. So this is one of the first characters I made, right? He is a Renkai primary bard, secondary tank. He's a siren. Even if you go as far as saying, okay, I'm going to make a siren. Obviously, you can't do that to level 25, but you're going to make a siren. And you go, okay, I'm going to make him a Renkai. And then you come up with a badass name, Gorthar Bloodhymn, which is still probably my number one or number two name we've come up with. And then, I come up with the stories, there's videos about it or whatever, but then we came up with the Bringer of Plate Mail and Power Chords. And just that little tidbit will make me want to log on and play him. It'll make me want to invest the time. People will complain about the length of time it takes to master a profession. Some people are already complaining that Steven said it would take 45 days of, 6 hours a day to get to max level. And for most MMORPG grinders, that's nothing. They'll play 8 to 12 hours a day, and it may take them 30 days. They're not worried about that. But for casual people, it's going to be longer. And some days it gets a little, even if you're enjoying the game, it can be kind of a grind. But knowing that you're enjoying this character because you like his name, you like the idea of the character, where you're going with it, and you like the way the gameplay is once you play him a little bit, that's going to drive you to get on and play. And it may drive you to just have more fun. It may incidentally increase the amount of fun you have when you play. So give it a try. You don't have to go as far as I do sometimes, coming up with full backstories like they're an NPC in the game or an NPC in a book I'm writing or trying to write. Tried to write multiple books, but they've all failed because I get distracted. Whether it's that or, you don't have to go that far. Just something like this, you don't have to write it up. Just think about it. It could be better. If you are a role player, I say if you haven't looked at this game, check it out. I think it's going to be great for all the reasons I've mentioned. I think it's really going to create an environment where we could have a lot of fun. And then I think another side note for anybody who's still watching the video at this point, getting into the role-playing community could be intelligent from a digitally financial point of view. Why you say that? Because role players are way more into aesthetics. They're way more into mounts. They're way more into clothes and various things in game. There's a good chance that maybe there's only one sword that's a badass blue color, and you've got a lot of people who want that for their outfit or the way their character looks, and you create that and you're in the role-playing community. You could probably get a pretty penny for it, gold wise, or whatever the currency is. Things like that. I know that's a silly reason, but it just is. Maybe you have the best tavern and you have a lot of fun with it, and you make a Discord just for your tavern, and people can jump in, and you have a bot playing D&D non-licensed music in it. People can jump in the Discord or just in game, and you have all this really cool atmosphere, and you have a lot of fun doing it. There's a lot of cool things this game will provide, and I hope that role players and non-role players alike could get together and enjoy it. It could be the gap the bridge over the gap, if you will, between the two. But yeah, so that's why I enjoy role playing. Why I am learning to enjoy role playing in MMOs much more. I used to be in the camp that I thought it was dumb. I'll be real, but just with life happening around me, not being able to go out and play D&D or Vampire the Masquerade or Pathfinder or Starfinder or whatever, Mutants and Masterminds, whatever the fuck it is. Not being able to go do that and finding out like it was something that I enjoyed so much, it let my dramatic flair and my imagination run wild a couple hours a week. And it kind of breathed life into my whole personality and my whole situation. And not doing that, I didn't realize had such an impact. But it did, and I discovered that self-realization, and then I got into the role-playing and online games, and I was like, wow, this is a lot. This is it. This can scratch the itch. And then, I discovered Ashes of Creation, and I really started reading it, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, and it just does what it does, and I'm excited for it. So yeah, that was my random rant about why I like role-playing and why I'm so excited for role-playing in the digital space. And more so than all of that, role-playing in Intrepid Studios' World of Vera in the digital space. I know it's kind of long and a little rambly. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. This was more of almost like this is my video diary. That was what it felt like. But, if anybody's out there watching this, just leave a comment. Let's get a conversation going. The goal of this YouTube and Twitch channel when I'm on there is obviously the end goal would probably be some sort of monetization. Getting partnered here or there, sure, but it's to create a fun environment for role-playing like, so that people can have a community to hang out, to sometimes escape the world. You're having a rough time, maybe you show up as Gorthar Bloodhymn in the Discord, and you just talk about a game, talk about a fantasy world, let your imagination run wild with other people who just let it go, and instead of trying to rein you in, run wild with you. So that'd be cool. So thanks for sticking around, guys. Have a good day.